The Grand Royal's lobby shimmered with its usual elegance, the air infused with an aura of exclusivity and prestige. A dark-skinned man stepped calmly through the doors, carrying a small suitcase and dressed in simple clothes with a snug black cap pulled over his head. His eyes scanned the place with the familiarity of someone who knew every corner, yet his expression gave nothing away. He approached the reception desk and placed his hand on the polished surface. "Good evening. I'd like a room." The two receptionists, both blonde, their faces flawlessly made up, stopped their chatter the moment they saw him. The first gave him a quick glance, scanning him from head to toe with a slightly arched eyebrow. The other, after a brief hesitation, forced a smile that was as fake as it was strained. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have any rooms available." The man beneath the cap tilted his head slightly, keeping his eyes fixed on the receptionist who had spoken. Then, almost imperceptibly, he let out a soft chuckle. "Interesting," he murmured. "Are you sure there aren't any?" The second receptionist typed on the computer with exaggerated slowness, as if trying to prove she was checking something, though her face had already betrayed the answer. "That's right. The hotel is completely full," she replied mechanically. The man glanced at the screen and clearly saw several rooms available. He looked back up at her, noticing how quickly she averted her gaze. "Really? Because it seems there are quite a few free." The first receptionist sighed, folding her arms as if losing patience. "You see, sir, our rooms are usually occupied by a certain kind of clientele, people who expect a certain standard." The silence that followed was so heavy it seemed to chill the very air of the lobby. The man under the cap kept his neutral expression, though his jaw tightened slightly. "A certain standard? Yes. We don't want our regular guests to feel uncomfortable," the second receptionist added with a tense smile. "You understand, right?" The man stayed calm, but his gaze grew sharper. "Let me get this straight. I'm here with money in hand, ready to pay like any other guest, but you've decided I don't meet the standard of this hotel?" "It's nothing personal," the first receptionist said condescendingly, "but there are other places that might be more suitable for you." Without realizing it, they had just made a fatal mistake. The man placed both hands on the counter, offering only the faintest smile. "Suitable for me?" The receptionists exchanged a fleeting look. The second gave a small shrug, feigning pity. "Perhaps a motel down the road has space," she added sweetly, as if she were truly helping him. "Or we could call you a taxi," suggested the first with a soft laugh, "to take you somewhere more appropriate." The man exhaled slowly. "I'll ask one last time. Are you going to give me a room or not?" The receptionists no longer bothered with courtesy. "Look, we don't want any trouble. Just leave," the first said impatiently. "Yes, don't make us call security," added the second, folding her arms. At that moment, the man stopped smiling. His eyes, once calm, now carried a dangerous glint. "So, you're going to call security because a black man wants to stay in your hotel?" The receptionists stiffened, yet neither bothered to deny it. "We just don't want a scene," the first said firmly. "Yes, we don't want trouble," the second added with disdain. Unknowingly, they had just dug their own graves. "I see," the man murmured. The lobby doors swung open, and a tall, broad-shouldered security guard marched in. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, fixing his stern gaze on the man under the cap. "Yes, this man refuses to leave," the first receptionist answered with relief. The guard clicked his tongue and strode toward him, shoulders tense. "Sir, I suggest you walk out before I have to remove you myself." The man didn't move. The receptionists exchanged triumphant looks, convinced the matter was settled. But the worst was yet to come. The guard stood firmly in front of him, arms crossed with impatience. His imposing presence was meant to intimidate, but the man didn't even blink. He simply held his gaze with such calm that the tension in the room grew thicker. "Sir, you heard the receptionists. If you don't leave on your own, I'll have to make you," the guard said, his tone final and stern. The receptionists looked at each other with smug satisfaction, sure they had won. The first tilted her head toward him with feigned kindness. "Come now, sir, let's not make this harder than it needs to be," she said, as though speaking to a child. The second smiled with smug superiority. "Yes, it's not worth making a scene. Just go." But he remained still. His expression stayed serene, without the slightest trace of fear or anger, as if none of this surprised him at all. Then, with the unhurried calm of someone about to make a simple remark, he raised a hand and removed his cap. The silence fell like a thunderclap. The receptionists froze, their smiles vanishing instantly. The confidence in their faces melted into a mix of disbelief and panic. The guard, who until then had stood firm, frowned in confusion. Something in the man's gaze made him swallow hard. "You have no idea who I am, do you?" the man asked, his tone calm but edged with steel. The receptionists blinked rapidly, scrambling for a logical explanation. I stammered the first, her face draining of color. "Who?" The second tried, her voice trembling. The man drew in a slow breath, then exhaled, studying them as though deciding how severe their punishment should be. "My name is Marcus Carter," he said, pausing for the weight of the words to sink in, "CEO and owner of Grand Royal Hotels." The impact was devastating. The receptionist's eyes widened like saucers. The first felt her legs buckle beneath her. The second covered her mouth as though to stifle a scream. The guard took a step back, his authority crumbling in seconds. "What?" the first receptionist managed to whisper, her voice breaking. Marcus tilted his head, regarding them with a blend of disappointment and amusement. "You know what's funny? I've been in this hotel hundreds of times. I've invested millions in it. I designed it, built it from the ground up, and yet you decided I didn't fit your standard." The weight of his words crashed down on them like an avalanche. We didn't know," the second receptionist tried to justify, but her voice died under Marcus's stare. "Exactly. You didn't know because instead of treating me like any other guest, you assumed I didn't deserve to be here." The guard, still shaken, tried to intervene. "We were just following orders." Marcus let out a humorless laugh. "Orders? From who? The policy of silent racism?" The guard had no answer. Marcus stepped forward, and the silence grew deafening. "Well, now I'll give you my own orders." The receptionists stiffened, their bodies rigid as statues. "You're fired." The sentence dropped with the force of a guillotine. The first receptionist staggered, reaching for something to steady herself. "Please, Mr. Carter, it was a misunderstanding." "No, it wasn't," he cut in coldly. "You made a choice based on prejudice, and now you'll pay the price." The second receptionist began to sob. "No, please." Marcus didn't even blink. "Gather your things and leave." The guard watched, his heart pounding. "And me?" he asked, his voice trembling. Marcus studied him carefully. "You came in later. You didn't start this, but you didn't ask questions either. You're fired, too." The guard felt the ground collapse beneath him. Marcus stepped back and pulled out his phone. "I'll make sure the entire hotel industry knows what you did. Good luck finding work." The receptionists broke into tears. The guard lowered his head, accepting his fate. Marcus put his cap back on, cast one last look of disappointment, and turned to leave the hotel. Outside, he inhaled deeply. It wasn't the first time he had faced discrimination, but it was the first time he had encountered it in his own house. And the worst part was knowing it still happened in so many other places. If this story made you think, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share this video. Because this isn't just a story, it's a reality we still need to change.